The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, my Lord. In his teaching, Jesus said, "Beware of the scribes who like to walk about in long robes, to be greeted obsequiously in the market squares, to take the front seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. These are the people who swallow the property of widows while making a show of lengthy prayers. The more severe will the sentence be they receive." He sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the treasury. Many of the rich put in a great deal. A poor widow came and put in 2 small coins, the equivalent of a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "I tell you solemnly, this poor widow has put more in than all who have contributed to the treasury. For they have put in all money they had over. But she, from the little she had, has put in everything she possessed, all she had to live on." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Like most of you, I have a USB port, or most of you probably haven't got it yet in the car, you know. So the wonderful thing, you can every time I turn on the key, I start listening to the next talk from somewhere or other, and this way of feeding my soul is a very, very profitable way, I believe, for me. And this morning coming up, I was listening to a great teaching, which I'd love to share with you, but I won't, except for one line of it. He said that you're familiar with the old phrase, I think it came from Marriage Encounter somewhere, God doesn't make junk, you know, which is really nice. But he added to it, he said, God doesn't make junk, but he picks up garbage and he recycles. There's a meditation for you for the week, all right, okay. This is virtually the last of the weeks where we will talk about Mark's Gospel for the year. Next week we'll do End Times, which is, you know, not my favourite sermon, I can tell you. But so we're coming to the end of Mark's Gospel. And there's 2 parts today. The first part, Jesus in his teaching says, "Beware of the scribes." You notice in Mark's Gospel, Jesus attacks the scribes. In Matthew and Luke, we get plenty of the Pharisees, all right? But Mark picks out the scribes. And he picks them out for, they like to walk around in long robes, to be greeted obsequiously in the market squares, to take the front seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. And he said, these are people who swallow up the property of widows while making a show of lengthy prayers. The hypocrisy of the Jewish leaders is proverbial in the scriptures. Jesus used words of them that he wouldn't use of you or me, hopefully ever, like brood of vipers, whited sepulchres, real good phrases from the gentle Jesus when he comes to talking about these people who are the people that went to church, the people that put their tithe on the plate, who are the people that kept the law obsequiously and made sure everybody else kept the law too. These were the good people of the time of Jesus, good in inverted commas. And we've got to be careful of who are the scribes and who are the Pharisees today. They're not the Muslims. They're not the people that don't go to church. They're the people that go to church, but go to church for the wrong reasons. And I think we've got to look at that all the time. We've got to look at it all the time. So this is Jesus, all but. You know, this is the Wednesday of Holy Week in the chronology of Mark's Gospel. Thursday's, tomorrow's the Last Supper, Friday's the cross. If you go through the chronology of Mark's Gospel, as I've tried to do with you in the little written blog that you get every week, We are right all but at the end. And Jesus waits till right at the end to teach his disciples. This is the teaching. This is the teaching of Jesus, to beware of the way religious people living in his time are acting. Then he finishes, and he makes the central point in the whole teaching of Jesus is this story of the lady putting the 2 coins on the plate. This is not just a little story in the Gospel of Mark. This Mark puts it centrally right on the eve of Holy Thursday. It's the important part of his gospel. And it's not about money and putting money on the plate. It's about giving our lives to the Lord. Mark is writing just after Peter has been crucified upside down in his hometown in Rome, where Mark's writing from. Just after Paul has been beheaded, been a martyr in the faith. He's living and witnessing to people who are giving their lives to Jesus all the time. The last coin they own, the last symbolic of the very offering of their lives to the Lord. And Mark is putting on the lips of Jesus this teaching, because Jesus is aware that within 48 hours he is going to be asked to put his life on the line, to put his whole 2 coins in the treasury, to give up everything for the Father's will to bring salvation to the world. It's not just a little story in Mark. We say that Mark often looks like a lot of PowerPoints that don't seem to have any connection. I think there's more connection there than we'd ever dream of. And the fact that he puts this incident right on the eve of Holy Thursday in the chronology of the gospel as he writes the story of Jesus makes it pretty important. This little lady becomes one of the great important teaching parts of the Gospel of Mark, because she is symbolic of what we're all called to do. The first commandment, to love the Lord our God with all our heart and all our mind and all our strength. That's what we're called to do, and that's what we're called to do. He said, she put more in than all the others put together, because in the words of Jesus, she gave the little she's put in from everything she possessed, all that she had to live on. If we seek first the kingdom of God, everything else is added unto us. So we leave Mark there probably with a little word from next week. And we go on to, in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we start Advent, we start the Gospel of Matthew. And so I've enjoyed very much the whole year. It's made me go back to my books. It's made me study. It's made me to get it right. Somebody said, this same guy said in his teaching this morning, I wish Joe was here to hear this, because Joe is always very scrupulous that he never copies anybody else's talk, or if he does, he acknowledges it. And he says that if you copy someone else's talk, you know, you're a plagiarist. But if you copy from 10 people, well, then you're a researcher. I'm a researcher. All right. God, thank you all. Bless you.